psychological analyses that arm you with some examples such that you can apply them to get your life on. I haven't done the intro in a while, so that you could get your life on track, get your eyes on the prize, and find your fulfillment. Today's topic is I'm going to go over every argument I have against Venezuela because this Venezuela thing is an instructive example of this emergent, or I shouldn't even say emergent this long, but rather this long-standing problem of the right wing playing fucking tough guy games and acting like a tough guy and all of this stuff. It's insulting, it's offensive, it is a betrayal to actual sovereignty, to America first, to agency, to the country, and you're a fucking like goy if you keep falling for this shit. So we're gonna get into that there. Welcome to Marchese Daily. Whoops, let me go live here. Let me make sure my systems are all set up. And so yeah, Marchese Daily, more like Marchese sometimes. LOL, am I right? So for those of you who might be tuning in because I had previously a series of streams, you might remember that I was doing it every day and then I got caught up with my assignments and everything and other endeavors, and then sure enough, it's sort of, I fell off, bro. I fell off. No discipline. I am the tough guy, the tough discipline guy about the gym and everything, and I can't fucking get it together for a show daily. But nevertheless, that's just a matter of learning how to manage my ideas here, because I'm really becoming like a maniac with all my ideas and all this stuff. Like, I have a 10,000 word article idea for almost every fucking thing I see, every tweet I see. So I just got to do a better job of managing that. You have the Marchese Methods sign here. It's too late for me. The camera changes and sets up a little bit differently depending on what I use to preview it and everything. So it's a little low now, whereas it was higher before. So I'll have to sort that out. I'll have to get myself organized here. Before we begin, reminder that I am the based therapist, not fully licensed yet, so I operate more so as like a life coach or online personal trainer, but nevertheless, I apply all of the strategies of based therapy, which orient on problem solving and not what you think therapy actually is. So if you would like that, or if you're interested in that, you can head on over to marchesemethods.com for one-on-one coaching. You could do 1 hour for $50, 4 hours upfront for $120 total. I also have a Discord where for $5 a month, you can text me all day, every day, ask me questions and all that stuff. I can't always promise I'll respond 24/7, but nevertheless, I can't fucking help myself, and I'll probably write you like a 5,000 word fucking message to help you out. So I also launched merchandise. I just have my hoodie. You might have seen the Marchese Methods hoodie make an appearance on my Marchese Maxing threads, or sometimes on the stream here. Some people asked me, so that's available also on marchesemethods.com. So that's everything here. So let's get started. So, dude, this fucking thing, this American tough guy thing, let's just start with, is anyone even actually paying fucking attention? Because the first argument that comes up is, duh, oil, duh, duh. And most people, granted, I almost kind of didn't know this, but the whole shtick with oil with Venezuela isn't like controlling the means of supply or something like that, but rather they have a different type of oil that we don't. It's the, it's a separate manufacturing process and that sort of thing. And so they have a huge reserve of it. It's not so much that they're have the infrastructure and preparation and capability to distribute oil, but rather that they have the raw material, the raw resource. Now, we want to play fucking tough guy and everything, but they don't have the infrastructure to support even extracting that oil. So, and American companies won't invest in them because they have to build this all up. This will all take years and that sort of thing. So the oil point starts to become moot. But even within their gay little mind frames about how, oh, well, freaking your oil belongs to us. We're tough guys. Maduro fucking offered like every possible thing on the fucking table back in October. He knew what he was getting himself into. He knew the problem of the tough guy American military, and so he offered to step down, and he offered trade, and he offered resources, and he offered to cut his ties with China. And I will read you something from the New York Times that specifies a little bit about this from the beginning. We have our introduction here that says, the far-reaching offer remained on the table as the Trump administration called the government of President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela a, quote, narco-terror cartel, amassed warships in the Caribbean, and began blowing up boats that American officials say were carrying drugs from Venezuela. Under a deal discussed between a senior U.S. official and Mr. Maduro's top aides, the Venezuelan strongman offered to open up all existing and future oil gold projects to American companies. Duh. Give preferential contracts to American businesses. Duh. Reverse the flow of Venezuelan oil exports from China to the United States. Duh. And slashes country's energy and mining contracts with Chinese, Iranian, and Russian firms. The Trump administration ended up rebuffing Mr. Maduro's economic concessions and cut off diplomacy with Venezuela next week. Now, this was back in October, so this was written in that time frame when it says last week. The move effectively killed the deal, at least for now, the people close to the discussion said. So how does it stand to conduct a military operation for oil when they already offered it to us? Duh, doy. So, number one, you fucking retards weren't paying attention. I specifically remember this part, and I specifically remember finding that gay and suspicious, and I knew from then on out it was a ploy to play fucking tough guy for you fucking goyim. You goyim that are going to lap up that they're playing tough guy and saying, no, you just like the idea that we say no to a deal because you read on twitter.com from some fucking e-girl that it's hot to be disagreeable. So you goy with your fucking little tough guy masculinity act brains go, oh, okay, disagreeableness is hot. Well, I'm going to neurotically say no to everything, and I'm going to project myself or parasocially project myself into the governing body of the United States and get off and fucking emotionally masturbate to when the United States is disagreeable. Because then I can say, by extension, well, I'm an American, so therefore I'm a tough guy, disagreeable person too. The United States being a tough guy doesn't fucking mean you are a tough guy, faggot. So there's that discrepancy. Now, let's suppose somebody even knew, or let's suppose somebody had some idea about this stuff. The cope might be, well, they didn't offer a good deal. Oh, really? Offering all of that? Does that sound like a fucking bad deal to you? Does that sound like a Jewy Jewstein clandestine deal, or playing these surreptitious little games of, foot in the door phenomenon, being a car salesman or something like that? Doesn't fucking sound like that to me. And I'm sure amidst reading the finite details, you'll find that regardless of whether that deal was all that well endowed, I guess, that it was a concession tells you the negotiations were moving forward, because this is how negotiations work. Moreover, let's suppose the deal wasn't good. So what? We get to throw a fucking temper tantrum? We get to throw a temper tantrum and go prancing around and fucking stealing? We don't get our way. Why negotiate even in the first place if we're just going to play tough guy? There's a fly in here. I promise it's not because I'm a dirty bubble. So what? We throw a temper tantrum when we don't get our fucking way? Seriously? Yeah, Chad, yes. Yeah, the Chad yes thing, you can't just fucking utter that and do that every second of every day for every last little thing you do. Because playing this emotional confidence posture thing doesn't fucking work when you have to have an argument. You have to have some kind of rationale to it. You have to have some kind of plausibility to it. And then when somebody shames you, you say, yes, the Chad, yes, anyway. Moreover, it doesn't work when it is shame, but shame in the discrepancy rather than just uttering, trying to appeal by shame, trying to get you to stop by shame in and of itself. So let's throw away the Chad yes and everything. This discrepancy tells you that there is necessarily a sneaky, surreptitious, clandestine motive of the United States to conduct this military operation. Now, I'm not getting to the China part yet. Some people are talking about the China part. The China concern would have been satiated with the Maduro step down. So I'm not getting to that yet, but rather the Trump administration is failing, and they know that they're fucking incompetent and they can't figure it out. And what's coming up this year are precious fucking midterms. Let's make sure we are ready for the midterms. Let's start prepping for the midterms a fucking year ahead of time. Now, we know that the current climate is that the Republicard, conservatard, Trump admin, everyone's growing fucking tired of it. The right wing is growing tired of it. Deportations aren't fucking happening. DHS posts fucking this and 10 million deportation memes. Even the fucking Goy are getting tired of it. The Goy are saying, okay, how about you just shut the fuck up and do it? So they needed a new fucking dopamine button to push for the retards, for the Goyim. And what's that button? Well, let's tap into and play into Fox News conservatard American military might tough guy LARP. And that's what they're doing. So your dopamine is spiked. So you're going to say, oh, they're freaking awesome. I'm going to vote so hard for freaking Republicans in the midterms. Vote for them in the midterms so that they could get elected, so that they can focus on making sure they get in the midterms so that they could get elected again. There's never just, let's just enact policy. It's always, let's just get in the midterms so that a Democrat doesn't get elected. But if you're not advancing anything of the agenda, of the America First political agenda or right-wing agenda, what fucking difference does it make then if a libtard is elected, if fucking AOC is elected? So that's what they're doing, and you fucking retards, you based fascists are fucking lapping it up. You 5,000 IQ based fascists who read 10 pages out of a Pat Buchanan book, and that makes you a fucking genius, are lapping this up. Now, before I get into the psychology of that, let's talk about some of the moving the goalpost arguments. Then it becomes, well, it shows China our might. Oh, really? It shows fucking China our might? Thinking about the power differential between the United States and Venezuela. Yeah, let's show China, the massive country with the massive manufacturing capability. Let's play real tough guy and threaten them by fucking half-ass doing some bullshit fucking quote-unquote epic surgical strike to remove some guy from the Venezuelan regime. Basically, this is analogous of, oh, I'm going to scare off Chad, 6'4" Chad, 280 pounds, me as a 6'4", 280 pound guy too, by, beating up some guy who's 5'5" and 120 pounds. How does that fucking deter China? What does it tell them? That we're still doing fucking COD cinematics? You people think it's impressive because you get a dopamine hit from the fucking TikTok tier edits online about it. You get a fucking dopamine hit, and then you go, well, the United States military is tough, and it feels tough to watch that, and I'm from the United States, therefore I'm tough too. What's more, all these based fascist, red-pilled accounts, what happened to the military being like retarded brown daycare? Remember that? What happened to that part? Oh, the military is brown daycare and for retards, which it is, and I'm going to get into. But, we're so tough because we did this middle-of-the-night operation that they had to spend months planning for. Like, I wouldn't be proud, that we had to do that is not pride. Is not pride in inflicting that upon a significantly less powerful or capable country. That's not pride. That power differential there is not pride. What's more, it doesn't indicate anything for our capability to take on China. Because do we think we're doing that type of operation with China? Or do you think it's like a total fucking all-out fucking front lines, thousands and thousands of bodies to the front lines, a total fucking bloodbath. It says nothing for our capability to take on China. And one of those means by which we would need to be able to take on China is a serious manufacturing capability, which we don't fucking have because, ding, 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 we outsourced it all to China. China manufactures everything fucking for us. So we have no means by which to take on a peer or a near peer power, because it becomes a war of actual serious attrition. It becomes a war of supply, manpower, industrialization, which we don't fucking have. So China's not impressed. China's not fucking scared of this. Using Delta Force guys, that we had to use our best trained, highly trained guys to enact this upon a fucking bullshit, half-ass regime, middle power country, should tell you that our military is actually fucking weak and pathetic, and our only hope is like these like super secret special forces operations. But a large-scale, sustained effort across the against a militarily commensurate power like China, with resources, with a body of an army, with soldiers, with front lines, with essentially the meat of it, with the meat of waging war. China's not fucking impressed with that. You're impressed with that because you get your fucking little dopamine hit. And you play your little fucking tough guy element to it. Now, some people say, well, regardless, it deters Chinese influence because we got what we wanted out of this trade deals with China that Venezuela has, and China building infrastructure that's dual use such that they can station their naval warfare or their equipment there. And then you have sort of Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0, where you have nuclear warheads in our backyard. Now, that would be great. That would make sense. But if we're so fucking worried about Chinese influence, number one, maybe stop fucking outsourcing manufacturing to them. Maybe stop admitting their students to our universities. And maybe stop letting China buy up fucking land. Remember that? Remember the Chinese people buying up land in Florida? Moreover, why does China have influence in the Southern Hemisphere? Well, because they're a more attractive trade partner to the Venezuela, to these middle powers, to Brazil. They're a more attractive trading power, and they're more attractive to make deals with. So, crazy concept, but remember all that free market homoeroticism? Maybe in the free market of the world, in the trade world, in the global economy, maybe just become a better trading partner. Whether that's by manufacturing or whatever the fuck else we could do. So concerned with Chinese influence. Okay, well then be a better deal for Venezuela or these other middle powers than fucking China. But we're not concerned about that. We're more so concerned about Chinese influence based on this low IQ, neoconservatard, stop the spread of communism type nonsense, where it's about global territory and all this stuff, this neurotic security dilemma. They call it the security dilemma. I call it the neurotic security dilemma, wherein, yes, of course, states are to play these security games, and your security essentially erodes the security of other countries everywhere, anytime. Even interpersonally, your interpersonal security. What does that mean? You having, say, a firearm. Well, you having a firearm erodes the security of somebody else, because if you want to, you can use that firearm against them. So they need a firearm to level that. Or with money. You want to, financial security, the more money you have, that's literally money not in somebody else's pockets. That's against their interest. So it erodes their interest. So it's going to forever be this sort of tug back and forth, necessarily. But when you take it to this neurotic degree, you have that you are forever in pursuit of global dominance, essentially. What is the ultimate security? The ultimate security is no other nation existing or having control over all other nations, but for them to largely have no sovereignty. Now, let's just think about what happens when you do that. Well, you do that, and then what exactly? What are you securing then? Security. Oh, securing our interest to import Infinity Indians to fuck up the X algorithm. Are securing our interest to still fucking order bullshit from Amazon off of that comes from China. So what interests are we securing here? I've been seeing, I tweeted about this, people saying, well, international law, and people saying, oh, the Monroe Doctrine are two sides of the same retard coin, wherein people think it's an argument to just utter that somebody else uttered it on a piece of paper once before. Oh, well, because international law says so. Okay, well, why does international law say that? Monroe Doctrine. Okay, well, why does the Monroe Doctrine say the Western Hemisphere is our legitimate sphere of influence, and therefore, our security lies in having Western Hemisphere hegemony? Okay, but why and how does that happen, and how does that facilitate? So what? Every nation everywhere can't trade with China in any way, in some fashion? Like, eventually it becomes neurotic, essentially. Now, I still think that it is rightful to bulwark China placing infrastructure, dual use infrastructure, specifically in our hemisphere, in our backyard. But let's not get fucking neurotic about it. Let's not wage fucking wars and do these homoerotic regime changes. There's arguments that it's technically not a regime change and everything. But what I'm getting at is security also is in the homeland. Security is also in having interests to secure in the first place. Isn't this like the story of every empire? It hollows itself out, it financializes so that the aristocrat class, the nobility, enriches itself, and then the gap between the lower class and the upper class widens so far that you have like a hollowed out, half-assed fucking country. And then what is it? Perpetual expansion? Expansion that we can't support because we can't even support our own fucking borders, our own home ground. Necessarily, that brings you to your empire falling in the first place. If you have this hollowed out empire, but you have this fragile border, this fragile periphery, eventually you're going to lose because you can't even support that periphery. Moreover, the security stuff, let's just think for a moment. Why are we supposed to hate China again? Like, did we stop to think about how China tries to play this game in the southwestern hemisphere because maybe we're doing the same thing to them? Like, we're infringing upon their security with Taiwan and cutting them off from the Pacific Ocean, excuse me. Now, look, it's rightfully so, but you dorks are captured by this homoeroticism, this emotionalism that clouds your judgment with it so as to say anything against China in some fashion is necessarily good. Like they're only our enemy because we keep antagonizing each other. I'm not a believer in like Democrat peace theory or libertarian just leave each other the freaking heck alone, but it's entirely neuroticism. It's this just broken down trust of, well, I have to do this because you're doing this, and then you have to do this in response to me responding to you. We respond to them, they respond to our response, and we respond to their response to our response. So this stuff becomes neurotic fucking security nonsense, security fucking bullshit. What exactly is China going to do? Invade us? Declare a war? Somebody said, oh, well, it deters China. Deters China from what? The war they weren't going to declare on us? According to what is China necessarily just going to insert war upon us? It's 2025. The world operates differently than on your peanut little hunter-gatherer emotionalism, your hunter-gatherer violence, your low IQ, low impulse control violence. That's another thing too. Oh, well, your oil, our choice, this type of thing, or oh, let's freaking heckin' get their oil. How is that any different from the brown thievery, brown thuggishness? You know, we're all such tough guys, you know, oh, freaking brown people are low impulse control and they steal things. Okay, what did we just do then? Or what are we trying to do? Especially in the wake of the deal offered to us to just fucking hand over the oil anyway. Like, getting off to this violence is brown low impulse control, actually. Some dork tried coping with that by saying, oh, well, you see, that's different because governments aren't people. Oh, really? Governments aren't fucking people? So what? Are they just these magical forces? That's no different than, like, the retarded Foytard type saying something like, oh, the heckin' patriarchy. And then you saying, well, who's saying that? And they're like, well, the patriarchy's like the system. Okay, well, how? What? Who perpetuates the system? Who perpetuates the fucking government? Moreover, if the government isn't fucking people, maybe then you don't get to feel like a tough guy when the government does something because it's fundamentally distinguished and distinct and different and separate from you. I forgot to check the frame rate thing that I had an issue with the last few times I did this, so hopefully this doesn't cut out and everything. Anyway, and oh, if the government isn't people, then stop saying fucking we. Stop saying we need to do this, we need to do that, we have this toughness type thing. More and more you see that the way that people talk about this is just fucking emotionally masturbating. It feels good to say, oh, your oil belongs to us. Yeah, that's how the brown low impulse control types think. Actually, retard. And it is no different. This is 2026. This isn't the 16th century. You know, stop the fucking colonialism LARP too. You're not a colonialist. You're not a tough guy or a cool guy like George fucking Washington. George Washington literally started his own fucking country. You're not that. You might have a vague tie to that, but you still have to fucking do something cool to be fucking cool instead of just fucking, you know, this stuff about colonialism and Americanism and the white thing, on some level, it does become a cope. You know, the image of like the meme of the trailer park fucking fat, absolute fucking proletariat pig rolling around their poo sty in their trailer park going, oh, white, you know, white power and us fucking whites are superior and all of that. And it's like, no, you don't fucking get that by way of being white. That's actually like brown. You know, what's some of the things that people decry about brown people is that they like do the wee wuzzery and we're cool guys and we're cool by nature of us being brown. Yeah. You might be white, you still have to have white characteristics and white behaviors. So that means that this return to colonialism LARP is not only mediocrities LARPing that you're tough guys for your half-assed 3 times a week workouts. Not only is that discredit or credit that you don't fucking, yeah, you'd be fucking nuts and say, fuck this, I'm starting my own country. And fight like hell for something just marginally better than that. Past industrialization and in 2026, we don't have to fucking do this shit anymore. Grow up. So, I sort of go off a riff here. Let me check my notes. Yeah, the security dilemma of China's gonna invade us and wage war. Isn't that the same cartoonish evil that they decried about fucking Hitler? Well, Hitler rose to power because he just intrinsically wants power because he's coping because he has a small dick and he's gonna invade everything. Your shit about China is like the same fucking thing. I don't hate China. And if anything, we're a little bit pushing it with them. We're a little bit pushing it with fucking NATO. NATO's expansionist. NATO expanded into like 13 countries, encroaching upon Russia's borders in the past 20, 30 years, something like that. So on some level, it is kind of like who starts it first. I'm not a libertarian. I'm not a non-interventionist. But this type of thing is like a last resort. And by no means is it something to fucking get off of. someone too said, well, it just looks cool. It's like, according to what does it look cool, and why do we need to look cool? How about instead of looking cool, just fucking be cool? If we want to threaten China, how about be fucking threatening? And to even utter that proves the point. Well, it looks cool. Okay, so you're saying that politics is about getting off. Or please, bro, let us just have this win, bro. That right there, tacitly or latently, whatever the word is, tacitly admits that the win here is getting off and feeling good. And this is so instructive because when I started politics, when I started getting into politics and everything, let me just make sure I don't forget anything. Let me highlight this next point here separate. And that's so instructive that it's, well, please, bro, let us have this win. So the win is just getting off and feeling like a tough guy, even though you're fucking fat losers. Please, bro, let us just have this win and looking cool. That you think that is the win is so remarkably instructive in that you're not even interested in actual tangible prosperity, advancement of actual political interests, any version of utility. You're LARPing that you're into utility, but you're fucking not. Side note on that, the Brown point doesn't refute the utility point. That's like because it does sort of sound like a gay moralization point. So it's not a moralization, but that there's that discrepancy tells me or tells the world that the collective unconscious of the right is inconsistent and is no fucking different than libtards just trying to masturbate. So that's what I'm getting at here. You know, when I first got into it, when you first sort of learn this stuff in high school, and you might have seen this in some of my writings, checking my time here, you might have seen this in some of my writings. I detail like what my political development is. And in high school, at first I shirked it because I could tell everyone was just fucking getting off to it. And then I said, okay, inevitably you have to pick, you have to sort of figure this stuff out, you have to develop your value system. And I broadly aligned myself and considered myself right-wing because what is the fundamental thing that's really the nucleus of it all? Libtards are just like lazy babies that want handouts, that type of thing. And Republicans are like the ones who want to heckin' work hard and earn things or whatever. So that was my concept, and that's basically most people's concept. And then you start to own the libtards and everything, then you get off to it, and then you say, you know, if I'm to be a man and if I'm to be serious and if I'm to value truth and develop this and have an intrinsic personal growth and development, I'm going to learn about politics for real. Like, what is this for real about? Let's stop with the fucking owning libtards. Let's stop getting off to that. Let's stop getting off to what freaking snowflake pussies they are. And let's actually analyze what this all means to us. So then you develop your politics and everything, and then some people arrive at the Jew thing and the immigration thing and the race thing. And part of it is like this still lurking edgelord disagreeableness thing, the disagreeableness is hot thing. But nevertheless, it still sort of has a authentic valuation to it. But then it develops into, well, now I can look like I'm not a lazy, fat, mediocre, fucking pussified, emotional dork by LARPing tough guy with this disagreeableness stuff while living my life a fucking total subordinate, dopamine fiend, sheep pussy. So that's what it's become. It's become essentially being a fucking pussified libtard but acting like you're not. And that's evident in how a lot of these arguments subtly are about feelings or about looking cool or feeling good and that sort of thing. Now, there was another point here that, well, we shouldn't allow anti-American regimes in the Southern Hemisphere. Oh, so what? We're mad that they say mean things about America? Big fucking what? Isn't our whole premise that we're such tough guys that anything they do and they say doesn't fucking matter? What happened to being such tough guys? You know, somebody was arguing with me that, well, Venice, you know, a coalition of South American or Central American states couldn't freaking take us on. And okay, so why does it matter if they're anti-American? Who the fuck cares if they're like communist third worldists? If we're such tough guys and we're such a tough military, can't they not fucking take us on? So what does it fucking matter? Let them cope and seethe and poop their pants. Moreover, I mean, just that, what is that saying? That is saying, oh, well, we should invade them because they say mean words. Grow up. Now, there was another part, this narco-terrorism cope. So, firstly, that's just flagrantly ignorant insofar as you are a fucking goy lapping up more and more of the State Department propaganda of freaking blowing up the freaking dinghy boats, which is like so ineffective, by the way, too. And not even real. Are these dinghy boats really crossing the Gulf of Mexico to do these operations? Moreover, Venezuela is not actually a drug hub in the same way a number of other states are, particularly Colombia. So that's just a bullshit pretext that you fucking goy are falling for because when the State Department releases the video footage of them blowing up these boats, you're like masturbating to it because it looks like the fucking Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare AC-130 fucking mission. So now let's also talk about, the fentanyl crisis. Now, I'm all for totally BTFOing the fentanyl thing, but have we forgotten the part about why there's a fucking demand for fentanyl in the United States in the first place? The drug problem is both a supply and a demand problem. Same thing with porn, too. Same thing with any substance or any indulgence. It is both. So let's fucking think about that. If we were so concerned about fentanyl, maybe solve the fucking home problem. Maybe solve the job problem, Maybe solve the absence of purpose and the absence of Christianity problem. I tweeted about this. There was this rat experiment where rats were given morphine drips, a thing of water and a thing of water laced with morphine. And long story short, the experiment goes that when they're like by themselves and isolated, all they do is fucking lap up the morphine. But when there was like a rat park and like an ecosystem and like a little rat town, essentially, they still had the option to select the morphine, but they fucking didn't. Now, you can just zoom out. Now, don't even think about fucking coping and saying, well, that doesn't apply to humans because rats are different. Why would we use rats in the first place? And rats have been demonstrated time and time again to have identical social behaviors to ours. So with that said, it would follow that if people had a fucking purpose, a family, a job, whatever, a sense of self, a sense of identity, the fentanyl problem would not totally dissipate, but significantly mitigate. Now, because I do think there is an actual serious element of, this is actually like one of my most libtarded takes, wherein if low-tier jobs are not paying enough that people can live on, they are going to turn to drugs. They are going to be miserable. Because if you're based and red-pilled on IQ and people's capabilities having limitations and everything, you're going to acknowledge inevitably in any given group or class or country or society, there will be a lower class that just will forever be a lower class. Now, they're sort of insentient, they're dope heads, and they're amygdala brains, but simultaneously, that their amygdala brains makes for them to really just be simply satisfied. That means that they're satisfied bagging groceries and going home and having their little house to sleep in and watching their Netflix and playing their video games or whatever. And usually I shame that and everything, but I'm talking to people who are trying to be better and that sort of thing. There is a class of people that inevitably that's their life and that's the best life has to offer for them. So that they're incapable of anything more than bagging groceries means that we should actually structure ourselves such that bagging groceries provides a life for them. Not a quality life, but the bare minimum life. And with that, inevitably, the drug problem significantly mitigates. They'll have families amongst themselves and each other, and they'll have fun, and they'll enjoy themselves, and they'll have a sense of purpose and a sense of self and a sense of contribution. Because we do need grocery baggers. So the fentanyl problem, let's not forget that if we were really so concerned with that, we would solve the housing problem, we'd solve the immigrant problem, we'd solve the economy problem, and we'd solve the family problem. And we'd solve the dating problem even. So, let me check if I covered everything here. I have all my notes organized. I think there's like a disappointment element to this too that tells you that Trump, it's so fucking unserious. How is it, if this is such an elaborate, sophisticated, complex operation that demonstrates our remarkable military might, and it was so surgical and so precise, and Trump totally fucking, heckin' FAFO'd them and FAFO'd Congress, why is it that we can do that without Congress, but we can't deport a fucking illegal without a local town judge that presides over fucking Cletus's, a town of like 5,000 and presides mostly over Cletus's fucking DUI convictions? That tells you that the administration is not fucking serious and not doing this for your interests. If they were serious, they could just as easily deport infinity fucking immigrants without needing fucking judges and without needing fucking that approval. We would have fucking ICE soldier Gestapo units barging down doors and demanding passports or demanding proof of citizenship or permanent residency. And that would just be phase one, just to get the illegals out of here without documentation. And would that be really that fucking hard? It's not hard to determine what neighborhoods are immigrant or illegal immigrant hotspots. So we can fucking wage these wars overnight without congressional approval. Some people are arguing, well, he can because it's technically not a war. Okay, suck my cock. You could still fucking deport illegals and say, well, it's technically not, doesn't need a judge because they're illegal. So they broke the law. So case closed. And they don't have documentation. Necessarily, they have to go. So, yeah, other cope was based fascist accounts say, well, he's a freaking heckin' commie meanie dictator. Oh, really? What happened to being based fascist that totally fucking lap it up when other countries have based fascist dictators? Even some based fascists were going, oh, well, it was an illegitimate election. Okay, if we're so concerned about illegitimate elections, how about we prosecute the entire fucking Biden administration for 2020? So, I think that's actually everything here. 40 minutes or so. I don't know how dedicated I am to a specific structure and everything. Maybe I'm just going to do a video of me doing a rant just to get my thoughts out every once in a while, particularly on these topics. I was putting it off because with politics, I want to be well informed and everything. So it takes me a little while to hone and crystallize my argument because if I'm going live here, I don't want to say something dumb and retarded. And unwell researched or ignorant or something, but maybe I should just, LOL Chad, yes. So, let's just pause on the tough guy stuff. Let me think. Let's just pause on the tough guy stuff. The world is scared of us. If we're so militarily dominant, they're already scared of us. China's not going to fucking wage war on us. Grow up. We just need to sort out what's going on domestically is mainly my point politically. And then as far as like the psychosocial collective unconscious, you people are goy and will easily vote hard for fucking Republicans against your interests every time because they make you feel good. You need to separate what makes you feel good and what is actually good. And this requires rational analysis, politics, and everything. There's an argument to be made against everything I said, but that it feels good and that it looks good and that it's cool and that it fucking gets you off, makes you feel like a tough guy, isn't a fucking argument. So, yeah, the anti-Americanism too. There's part of that that's no different than neocon democracy homoeroticism. We don't need people to be ideologically aligned with us because they're fucking scared of us anyway because we have the utility. Anyway, remember that part? So anyway, it's got kind of hot in here. This isn't my usual best brain power time, so I think I'll end that here. I think that's enough to mull on. I don't have a solid conclusion here. Knock it off with the tough guy stuff. You're not tough because the country's tough. The country's not even tough. This was an unimpressive operation. The military's a joke. The military's brown daycare. We have no manufacturing power to support sustained operations. Everyone's still scared of us anyway. Nobody can take us on anyway. And this stuff about democracy and anti-Americanism, that's no different than fucking liberalism and neoconservatism. Anyway, so that's going to do it this time. MarcheseMethods.com for one-on-one coaching, $50 for one session, $120 up front for 4 sessions as a package, $5 a month for my Discord. MarcheseMethods.com for merchandise. DM me or email me at marchesemethods@proton.me. I'll try to keep you more updated on everything. I don't know how I'm going to work out YouTube and everything and articles. School's coming back up and all of that, so I think I will just be a lazy Italian brownoid, cope inconsistent rightoid, just like I just lambasted. And just when I have a good idea for something that can go on for a little while, I will speak to it. So that's everything. I will see you next time on Marchese Daily or Marchese Sometimes, I guess.